This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is January 7th, 2020. This is the day the rules were released, and this is the XFL Show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Bryant.
Today we learned how the XFL plans to reimagine the game with the introduction of the league's unique rule changes. This is a special instant rules reaction mini-sode, as we are just 4.5 weeks until kickoff, and the rules are out. Jake, do you have your English accent ready?
Can you give me at least another week, perhaps?
I'll give you another. I'll give you until the complete rule book is available for you to read.
Okay. You guys know how I am with accents, and that they're not well.
I'm leaving. Literally the only reason I was
you're
here.
not leaving.
You're not leaving, because I could honestly tell you this is the most excited I've been on the road to 2020, on the road to kickoff 2020, because the rules, I'm just reading them and envisioning what they're all going to look like. We're going to get into the major rule changes that the league highlighted today and a couple others. We're not going to go full into detail on every single thing that was talked about today and presented by the league. It was a big day for the league, but we are going to talk about the main things this weekend. We'll get into the dirty details, Vince, but for now, we need to discuss, give our instant reaction, maybe thinking a little emotionally here, maybe a little too off the cuff, but I know that's the way you like it, especially on a big day like this.
Yeah, this is what we have been waiting for, especially this is exactly what I've been waiting for this time here since the league was first announced, and now here we are 4.5 weeks away. We finally know the rules. We've been talking about it. People ask you, what's this XFL all about? And now you could tell them, that the game has been reimagined. They got these rules that are hopefully going to make it for the better. That's what I believe. And all you got to do is just go to www.xfl.com/rules, and it lists them all out. And we're going to talk about some of them here today. I'm just so excited about this.
I love that webpage. It is beautiful to see that rules page on xfl.com. And yes, we're gonna be discussing a lot of stuff on that webpage today. Bryant, we've got an entire month now to sink our teeth into these rules, try to understand them, get ready for them, and like Vince brought up, explain them to friends we talk to at the bars, on the streets, in the airplanes. I know you're traveling a ton. You need to grab everybody you run into at the airport and start explaining these rules to them.
It really is something that I think. How do you put into words something that is already in words? I guess you're gonna have to figure out a way to explain these rules to people who maybe are wondering why these changes are happening. I guess that's the approach you have to take, right? Because rules are clearly written, clearly stated on XFL.com.
Gotta love though how they put on there though the explanation of why. They did give reasoning why for each rule.
And I love how it tells you what, the NFL rule is, or the college rule is, to keep people up to date. I think this web page is laid out so perfectly. It's my home page currently. I love it so much.
I thought that would be something Jake would be doing, but Vince has saved it. And definitely everybody should bookmark it. I don't care what browser you use. Bookmark xfl.com/rules. And let's get into this today with our instant reactions. Jake has been salivating, and I know you've prepped a lot for this one, Jake, throughout the day, reading that webpage up and down. But before we get into everything announced today, I do want to take a moment to tell everyone something special. As in addition to the rules, this weekend we will have episode 104. The rules came out today. This league is happening. This is a real thing on February 8th, in just a month. And we started covering it all the moment Vince McMahon announced that the XFL would be reimagining the game of football. And now, here on January 7th, 2020, we are thrilled to announce something that was pretty hard to imagine 104 weeks ago. This is not just the XFL show anymore. This is an official XFL podcast. That's right. We are partnering up with the league as the first official XFL podcast, and we're going to be here each and every single week, just the same as we've been since early 2018, but now in an official capacity. So in addition to getting your official rules today, the league's also giving you an official podcast to boot. You could find us not only on our normal feed on any podcast app, but now we're also going to be on all the league's platforms. YouTube, XFL.com, all socials, you could find us there as well. So we're going to be there in an official capacity each and every single week covering the XFL. Still a show for fans, by fans. Ask us questions. Keep hitting us up at XFL Show, at XFL 2020. Keep sending in your content, pictures, videos. We're going to share our love for football with the world in an official capacity now, because as we've said all along, Vince, remember,
they are listening.
And we're proof that they have been as an official XFL podcast, the first official XFL podcast. This is the XFL show, so we are super pumped to announce that today. What a ride it's been, and here we are on the rules release day. We get to make that announcement, no less, Bryant. Pretty special.
It's very special. It's something that I think it's fair to say that we didn't imagine could happen so long ago, but now with the access the league has given us, with the unprecedented access, I will say, it's great to be a part of something special, and we're going to be along for the ride anyway. But now to be in this capacity with the league working side by side to hopefully bring everyone even better content than what we've been trying to provide over the last 20 months or so.
Oh, if you think the access has been good so far, Brian, just wait now. Now we're gonna.
That's what I'm saying, right? This show's only gonna get better, and that's the hope, right? That the league wants fans like us to give other fans access that they've never had before, and it starts with us, but it's going to continue with everyone that's listening today and going forward.
So find us, in all the same places on your favorite podcast app, but also go to XFL.com. Check out the podcast section. Go on XFL's YouTube channel. We're going to be everywhere. Any platform the league has, we're there. And we are super excited and thrilled that they've brought us on now as an official part of the family. Super hyped on this big day for the XFL. The rules are out, Jake. Dean Blandino, Oliver Luck, were all over the place doing interviews. They had a big conference call today. Dean Blandino did an AMA on Reddit that I read, and it was very, very enlightening. And let's start with the officials, though, Jake. They're using D1 officials, Division I college football officials who have worked in the NFL development program for officials, and there's going to be 8 officials on the field, plus that ball spotter that we've heard about. What do you think of the people they're going to be using to enforce the law on the football field?
Well, you're going to have a lot of guy out there, and most importantly, the ball spotter's job is solely to spot the ball. I guess he's not even going to have any flags in his pocket, right? No reason to do that. If that's going to be the responsibility of the other 8 individuals out there, like you said, using D1 guys. Not getting these guys off the pony league or the little league fields out there, so they know what they're doing, and it is going to be a big adjustment for them. But I'm sure they've been looking at these rules. I'm sure they didn't just figure out them today or brought to their attention. So I think they're going to be prepared also. It's just going to be up to the coaching staffs to prepare their men for kickoff weekend.
Vince, Dean Blandino, Oliver Luck seem pretty confident that the 8 officials are going to be able to handle the speed of the game, 25-second play clock. What do you think of that? It's a fast-paced game. These are basically professionals. These are guys who do this at a high level coming into the XFL. Are you confident that the game won't be too fast for these people to call?
That's going to be interesting to see. These college officials, they do have other jobs. That's something to point out. It's not like these guys are full-time referees 52 weeks a year. But I do think it's good that, this will kind of be, about, a month after the college season ends. So these guys should still be in pretty good shape, should still be pretty sharp on their skills here. And it's going to be very interesting. I'm sure that they're working down at the training camp down in Houston. And I think they'll be ready for it. They're going to have some good cardio. There's no doubt about that, especially that ball spotter.
During the conference call, Dean Blandino was asked about the cardio capacity of the officials with how fast this game's going to move. He laughed it off as something that it'll be okay, and I think that's fine. The more I worry about the officials is just a simple fact of the little changes of rules, right? They want to make sure they get those right. I worry more about that than I do about the cardio, I guess you could say.
Well, I mean, you could, at least for the ball spotter, if that's your only job, you could sub people in and out doing that, I suppose. Why not? You could do that. And the other officials obviously got to keep that consistent throughout the game. But that ball spotter, he's going to be the guy that's going to be running the most.
Yeah, it's going to be like watching one of those youngsters in the U.S. Open running and fetching tennis balls.
The tennis
ball. Do you think he's going to have like a big fanny pack or something with like an extra ball in it, ready to put down?
Yeah, it's like an umpire, but just with big fanny packs.
Where do you get these fanny packs that fit footballs? And if you know, tell me, because I definitely want to pick one up.
It's called reimagining the game of fanny packs.
Yeah. That's just putting a backpack on your crotch. I don't know. The good thing,
you see some kangaroo guy out there.
The good thing here is that you got the video official, though, Bryant, which I think safe to say we all loved about the AAF was the video official, at least the camera on him, and knowing they're up there. It's comforting. It makes you feel like, don't worry, there's an eye in the sky who's going to make things all better in case there's something bad that happens.
Yes and no. I've always been the one that's not been a big fan of this video official just because of what their powers are or are not. But for egregious calls, I guess it makes sense to have this official here. But it is nice. It's going to be a nice perspective to have. I did like the camera angles that we would get on the video official that was upstairs, making calls and things like that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and we'll dive deeper into the video official on the big show this weekend. But Dean Blandino and Oliver Luck did mention that the league's looking into how TV will interact with that video replay booth. We might be able to listen in, or the broadcasters might interview someone in the replay booth, which could be really cool. They said it's going to be very different, which I'm excited for. Also, Dean Blandino did mention that the full rule book, Jake, if you want the PDF version or whatever version they're going to put it out in, the entire thing's going to be out in a couple of weeks, according to the head of officiating of the XFL, Dean Blandino. So today wasn't the full rule book coming out. It was, the big rules that they want everybody to be aware of. But the rule book itself, Jake, which I know you're going to mount next to some of those classic action figures of yours on your mantle.
Yeah, rumor and innuendo says they're still searching for the right cattle to use for the proper leather to bind this book. So it's going to take a couple more weeks.
I think it's going to be digital, actually, Jake, but maybe we'll see. We're going to talk about the 5 big rules that the league highlighted on that website Vince was referencing earlier, his homepage, xfl.com/rules, in just a moment. But real quick, Vince, you're the one that brought it to all of our attention while we were, I was prepping this show, and you sent me this link to xfl.com, and I couldn't believe what I read. But breaking today, we got to kind of take a step back here, because in Houston, training camp's going on, and there's some big news. Dallas Renegades quarterback Landry Jones, left knee injury during practice on Monday, and according to head coach Bob Stoops, out 4 to 6 weeks, which means he's going to be out probably for the early portion of the season.
Yeah, not a good situation for the Renegades, especially this close to the season starting. I know you're saying 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully to have him for the opener, but that's all training camp. These are valuable, extremely valuable practices, probably the most valuable practices that'll ever take place in this league. And Landry Jones won't be a part of it. I think that is huge. This is a huge blow for the Renegades. We hate to speculate about the, exactly what this injury is and how serious it is, Alan. But hopefully Landry comes back strong for week 1.
Yeah, that's the first player signed to the XFL. Devastating not only for the Dallas Renegades, but upsetting, I think, for the league. Everybody's really looking forward to seeing Landry Jones take the field for Bob Stoops in Dallas. So this is what the XFL is all about, the opportunity. So Philip Nelson, the former East Carolina quarterback, will step up, and we'll see what he does. And also interesting to think about is who they replace Landry Jones with if they need to get another quarterback on the roster come kickoff in a month. So that's what training camp gives you. It gives you not only camp battles and jockeying for starting positions, but unfortunately as well, Bryant, injuries. And I'm hoping not, but I would probably bet that we'll see some others over the course of the next few weeks. Hopefully none as bad as that.
Well, that's always the hope, right? Never to see any player go down, but it is a part of the game. It is why the XFL drafted so many players, and it's why NFL teams have so many players in reserve and whatnot. So unfortunately it does happen. It's part of the game. So hopefully Landry Jones can get back. There is some hope. I know some optimism from Coach Stoops that he would be ready by the beginning of the season, but it is looking towards week 1 or 2.
Yep, we will, of course, be monitoring Landry Jones now closely to see his status, because that could be huge. Dallas at home, too. I'm sure a lot of people in Dallas were excited to see him take the field in week 1, but such is life in the game of football, and we will keep you updated here each and every week throughout training camp next couple of weeks, and monitor what's going on with injuries across every team. Hopefully no other team experiences that, though. Okay, Jake, I know. Back to the rules, the highlighted rules. There were 5 of them that were really emphasized by the league on the webpage for the rules with accompanying videos. We're going to play each of those here. They're short, and then dive into them and give our instant reactions and have a quick discussion about the 5 main rules, rule changes, and then we'll talk about some other things of note on this big rules day for the XFL. But let's get into the first one here of the highlighted rules, and that is the kickoff in the XFL, which the league we've talked about is really emphasizing, and a lot of rules regarding the kicking game being changed. And if you look, Vince, I would say on your homepage there, xfl.com/rules, the kickoff section looks to have the most bullet points under it. A lot of differences compared to the game as it is in the NFL and college game now.
Yeah, this is drastically different. I can't wait to get your guys' opinion on it. You got the coverage team is going to be only 5 yards away starting from the return team.
Limited impact.
It's limited impact, but it could have a huge impact on the game, if you know what I'm talking about here.
Yep.
Because there's going to be a time once that ball was received, then the teams will be able to kind of run after each other essentially, and the fact that they're starting so close together, and in a way that the coverage team's starting, I would say, fairly close to the returning player, this could open up some huge returns, I think. I mean, Alan and Bryant, you've played special teams before, and you were usually the guys kind of lagging behind.
No, I just ran out of bounds so I wouldn't get hurt. That's what I would do.
I'd pretend to get blocked.
Yeah, so, you pretend to get blocked. Well, see, you got your gunners on the outside. You got those guys that are coming down a fly, and you got your wedge busters in the middle, and you got other people who are kind of further down the field, kind of like a second line of defense. Here, you got everybody set up right there. I mean, unless you're repositioning yourself, If you break one tackle there, get through that first line, you're gone.
We could see some beasts on the kickoff, but I know Jake wants us to keep some order here. So before we dive any deeper into it and get his thoughts on it, let's let head of officiating, Dean Blandino, explain exactly what's going on. This is the XFL Kickoff.
This is the XFL Kickoff. This is about creating more opportunities for big plays. To eliminate high-speed collisions, we're shortening the distance between opposing players. The coverage team starts on the opponent's 35-yard line, and the return team starts on their own 30. When the ball is first kicked, only the kicker and receiver can move. But once it's caught or is on the ground for 3 seconds, all players are free to run, block, and tackle. We're giving players and coaches the chance to create kickoff excitement. This is for the love of football. This is the XFL.
All right, Jake, you've been silent since we started kickoff talk. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the criteria that at least all these rules that got video for, is going to be, like they've been saying for over a year now, less stall, more ball. And this rule here, it definitely gives you more ball. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys feel like me ever since the NFL changed their kickoff rules. I never wanted to get rid of the kickoff, but so many times, it just goes out of the end zone or they just take a knee. So this is going to give us returns, finally. That's something that I was thinking about. Like Vince was saying, it doesn't seem like there's going to be as many layers of defenders that you're going to have to get through since everybody's starting on one horizontal plane. Of course, that's going to have to be up to the coaches and the players to decide. I mean, perhaps you want to drop a couple guys back once you're able to move. It sounds, saying it out loud, it sounds ridiculous going backwards whenever you should be going forwards to try to tackle somebody. But you're putting more obstacles in their way, I think, if you do that.
Vince, you've always talked about the importance of your position, right, and what you need to do. Kickoff, it's always about lane control, right? You manage your lane, and in this instance, you have to manage your lane more than anything. In this instance of a kickoff, just because if you don't, there's not much room. There's nobody behind you. Everybody's kind of on the same playing field. There's no slow runners. There's no backup runners, like Jake was saying. Maybe people do have to back up as a safety net, but there's some different. Some things that I'm very interested to see how coaches, how the kicker approaches this. Are they going to kick it to a certain side every time? Are they going to kick it down the middle? Is that the best option? I'm also very intrigued at the target, right? The 20-yard target. The kicker has to hit it between the 20 and the goal line.
Yeah, it has to be between the 20-yard line and the end zone. Otherwise, you're gonna be experiencing some penalties, and that ball's going to go to the 45-yard line. If it falls short of the 20-yard line, they're going to call it a legal procedure, so it goes to the 45. And the same deal with the end zone. If it's downed as a touchback in the end zone, though, then it's going to go to the 35 instead of the 45. But, I mean, that's going to be a different kind of kicker. You're not going to want these boomers anymore. You want accuracy from the kicker. And I'm just thinking about the different kinds of players on the kickoff we're going to see in the XFL compared to any other league. You're going to have to see the kicker's different. He's going to be an accurate guy, someone who could place it in that sweet spot. And then also, what kind of players do you want up front with that 5-yard gap? Do you want DBs, Vince? Do you want linebackers type bodies there? Or maybe you might have to put your best players out on this play because there's going to be a lot of yards to have there from that returner because they're going to have a lot of room to make some moves.
Yeah, and you think you're only 5 yards away from the blockers on your return unit, so you got to have somebody that's going to be able to get off a block. Because somebody could come up and hit him pretty quickly. It's not like you're running down the field and have a chance to really maneuver around somebody. So that I think is going to be the biggest thing, being able to get off a block. But you got to also have a lot of quickness there too.
It's almost like it's a good blitzer might be good on these kickoffs on the kickoff team. because coming from 5 yards out, that's a lot like what a DB or a linebacker is doing when they're rushing the quarterback. You're coming from a further distance at a blocker as opposed to, a D lineman who's right there hand-to-hand combat. So maybe those style of players are going to work here. Guys who could do that kind of blitzing might work here on the kickoff teams, I'm thinking, in terms of the body types and the skill set.
I'm intrigued on the receiving team. Who are you going to put on that? Do you put on, some slim offensive linemen you have, some tight ends maybe, some quick moving people who are used to blocking? I expect to see some pulling blockers. They're going to come over and they're going to take out a kicking a defender, I guess you can call it. And this is going to get interesting. There's going to be plays. These are just going to be 10 men coming together at the 32.5 yard line. It's going to be there's going to be some strategy involved in all this. I see stunting. I see pulling, almost like a pulling guard on an outside run.
One concern, Vince, is holding. I think when you have that distance, the 5 yard distance, and guys don't want to, I don't know if you're going to run back and then try to get the block, or if you're going to go forward at the guy. But I could see, I have a concern about some holding penalties might get called on these kickoffs. Even still, we see a lot of them now, but that's another thing you're trying to eliminate.
Yeah, that's holding, blindside blocks, things of that nature. That I could definitely see that. But I didn't really think about what Bryant said, and I really like it. That there's going to be design plays for this thing, or elaborate design plays, I should say. And that's good. It's about what Jake was talking about. Let's stall more ball. There is, as exciting as it is to be at an opening kickoff for a big game, a little bit of the air does get let out of the balloon as soon as that ball goes into the end zone, and we got to wait to, because nothing happened.
Another thing here, Jake, I wanted to get your opinion. What do you think of this? Dean Blandino said that the rule is the ball has to be caught or on the ground for 3 seconds before everyone could start running and all the chaos can ensue on the kickoff. And so there will be 2 refs, one facing the kickoff team, one facing the return team, so those players can get the signal when it's cool to go. There's going to be 2 refs, and they're going to basically be counting like NBA refs count for a backcourt with their arms. And they also said there might be an audible signal as well to let the players know that the ball's been caught or it's been on the ground for a while. What do you think of that? I think that's awesome, and I definitely am hoping for an audible signal.
I hope it works out as well as they think they do. That's definitely something whenever I heard about this rule this morning, because clearly the kicking team, I would think, would have an advantage because you're looking, right at the receiver that's going to catch the ball. If you're the coverage team, it's almost like you're waiting for the snap, but you can't see it. But yeah, if there's going to be some type of count or something, that's definitely going to help them out. You just have to. It has to be fair, and I hope that's a good solution for it. But I do need to see it in action.
Jake, I'm not going to ask you this question today because I want to save it for Sunday. But I want to know, because you have always, and I don't make me go back because I will pull the audio, that you said, what more can you do with a kickoff? There's not much more you can do. Kickoff is a kickoff. So I want you to do your homework.
Well, I'll wait till Sunday then.
Wait till Sunday, but I just want to ask you that question: is if it's actually worth what they're doing? That's kind of the question I want to ask you for Sunday.
Okay, all right.
Well, I also want to add that if they have this audible signal to let everyone know that the ball's been caught or down for 3 seconds, I hope it's team specific in each stadium. Vince, like the Vipers, it's just a loud hiss and the defenders have a big cannon, something like that. A different audible sounds.
A roar in LA.
Yeah,
screech for the Battlehawks,
and that new rap hit that came out in Seattle for the Dragons.
That could be tough to do, especially for the defenders, because cannons, unless you really time that wick burning perfectly.
Yeah, you're right. Those things are not very reliable.
Onside kicks also will be in the XFL, but a team has to notify the officials before they attempt to, so there won't be any surprise onside kicks. Vince, what do you think about the element of surprise being taken away here for the onsides?
Yeah, I mean that's something. It happens so rarely, but I mean, maybe we're gonna be talking about it a little bit further, and maybe not necessarily today, but on our show this coming weekend about the closing time rules and how quickly you could be able to get the ball back. So from that standpoint, maybe onside kick isn't really that necessary.
You talking about the comeback period?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll be getting into the comeback period a whole lot this weekend. Kickoff, though, that's it. It's got, it's got a pretty big section on the webpage, on the rules page, so read it thoroughly. We went over the key points here. Overall, though, initial reaction, Bryant, do you like it?
Yeah, I think it's what I like the most about it is it's what we expected based on what we've heard and what we've seen, but it's also kind of different. There were some nuances in there that they really took care of, like that, making sure that they get into that little window of the 20 yards for the kickoff. So I like it. I'm excited to see it. I think a lot can be done with it.
Yeah, I like it because of the pinpoint accuracy a kicker has to have, and you brought it up, Bryant, the scheming that might go into a kickoff now. It takes more thought. I can't wait to see what kind of – it's almost like coming up with blitzes for the kickoff team. How are you going to get around these blockers and go after this elusive guy who's going to be returning the ball? What about you, Vince? Do you like the kickoff rule overall? Initial reaction?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I absolutely. And this is kind of my theme with a lot of these rules here is that I really like it. It's something different. I think it's something that could make the game better. But with all of them, I can't wait to see it in action. I got a vision for what it's going to look like.
Them. Yeah,
but I got a vision for what it's going to look like, but I can't wait to see how it actually plays out. But overall, and I'll say this for all these, I'm not looking at any of these and saying, "Oh my God, this is stupid. I can't believe they're doing this. This is a gimmick." I don't feel that way about any of these things. I think they're right on track.
Yeah, that'd be ignorant. A lot of research has gone into this. You could have your doubts if you try to picture it and say you just don't see it, and I would understand that. I picture these kickoffs, and I picture them, a lot of them being exciting this coming season. What about you, Jake? Do you think that's just too much to grasp? Is it simple enough? What do you think of the kickoff?
I think it's going to look very odd on television whenever you see 95% on the receiving side of the field. But all that really matters, at least in my book, is that kickoffs are going to be back.
Yeah, and kick returns are too.
Yeah, kick returns. This one I want everybody to think about for this weekend when we do the big show. Starting field positions, knowing what we know about the kickoffs and the punts. What do you think the average will be about in the XFL? At XFL Show on Twitter, and let us know what you think. And we're going to come up with our own ideas of starting field positions because I think people might defer on that. Obviously, some people think, I've already been looking on social media, that a lot of these rules, especially that, is going to slant towards offense having good field position. Just see how good it will be. You got to score, though. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter where you start. It matters scoring. And then also, PATs in this league are going to be off the chain. Let me just say it. Point after touchdowns, no kicking. This is the XFL PAT.
This is the XFL point after touchdown. This is about raising the stakes and stepping up the strategy. In the XFL, the scoring team has 3 different point after touchdown options, and none of them involve a kicker. The first option is an offensive play from the 2-yard line worth 1 point. The second is a play from the 5-yard line worth 2 points. And the third is an aggressive play from the 10 that earns 3 points. The scoring team's offense only gets one chance to convert whatever option they choose. And if they fail to convert, they get nothing. And the defense can score too. If they get a turnover and return it to the opposite end zone, they get the same amount of points the offense was attempting.
That's 3, baby, that's 3!
So now there are more chances for teams to come back, and no lead is ever really safe. This is for the love of football. This is the XFL.
9-point game's a 1-score game, Vince.
Yeah, how about that? I like this. It's interesting. Like you said, you'll be able to get back into the game at the end a little bit faster. If you're down, what was a 2-score game is now a 1-score game. I don't expect to see that 3-point play a ton, but those 1 and 2 point plays, it's going to be interesting to see, what teams opt to do more often than not. 5 yards isn't getting to the point where I think it's too far away that I think there's going to be a lot of people going for 2 a lot.
Ooh, I think the opposite.
You think there's not going to be a lot of 2 or 3 point attempts, Bryant?
I think it's all going to be 1 point attempts unless you have to go for 2 to catch up or something like that. But I don't see people going out there for 2 in if the score is 7-7 and you score a touchdown, I don't see anybody going out there for 2.
You know what's great about this?
I think about it. If they miss it, then that means that your opponent just has to score a touchdown and do the 1 point conversion. It's very similar, I think, to going for 2 or not in the NFL, in the sense that what you do is going to control what your opponents do. So if you go for 2 and miss it, and now you're only up 6, you made it easier for the other team to just take the lead.
Yeah, I think
why make it harder on yourself than make it harder on others?
I do think that's how these coaches will approach it, though, Brian. That you're right; they're going to react and see what it's going to be situation based. But that's what I love about this is that nowadays in all the other leagues, there's analytics backing up what to do. Oh, the percentages say to do this, but this is year 1. There's nothing that tells you what you should really do here on a XFL PAT. So it's going to be interesting to see what people do. I honestly can't believe they went with this rule, but I'm so excited for it because extra points are lame. They're in the NFL and college. Who wants to see that anymore? I mean, when someone misses it, it's heartbreaking or great or silly, but this is now an exciting play each and every single time a touchdown scored, and then you get an exciting play right after. That's just more bang for your buck as a football fan.
Yeah, and and what's great about it, and this is what makes football the number 1 sport in this country, is that it's going to draw upon a ton of second guessing. It's like, oh my God, they got the 1 point so easy they should have just went for 2, or why'd they go for 2? They should have just settled for 1. I can't wait to see all that. Brian, you think a lot of people are going to play conservative? I tell you something right now, June Jones and Hal Mummy, those guys are going for at least 2 every time, maybe even 3.
They're going to run a 5-yard vertical down into the end zone. Come on,
Vince. Can you imagine that? Around the water cooler Monday morning, people are going to, the phrase, I can't believe they went for 3. That's just going to be a regular now.
Oh my goodness. Get it up on XFL Shop right now. They went for 3 ? Exclamation point. I mean, it's the best. It's the new catchphrase for the XFL. I can't believe they went for 3. Like I said, Jake, I can't believe they went with this rule. This is maybe the gutsiest of the rules, I think, in terms of putting it out there and being
Why
different.
So?
Because that is such a traditional thing, the kick, the point after.
Yeah, but it's not, yes, it affects the game. But
to boot, Vince, the 3-point play is really brash. That's the most brash thing I think in this rule book.
That's true, but if you're watching the game, I don't think anybody's going to see this and say, oh my God, this is that crazy. I don't think people are going to be saying that. I think people will be very intrigued by it.
Yeah, no,
it's
they
different,
will.
but yeah, but yes, it's going to affect strategy a ton, no doubt about that. But as far as how the game's played, I don't think it's going to affect it at all.
No, I think they're, the curmudgeons out there, people who fear change will maybe poo-poo this. I love it, but this is one of those things that's really, it's very visible how different this is, Jake. A 3-point play. I think in the past, Bryant's memory is way better than mine, but I think you've tilted your head at the 3-point play before. What do you think?
Said it was a gimmick.
And
verbatim.
And while I like most of what they said today, I'm not going to change my mind. I don't prefer this. I like the 1 and 2. I'm fine with that. Honestly, I don't mind if you would kick for 1, but the 3 points for me, it's too different for my mind to grasp right now. Maybe ask me in a couple years.
I just can't wait until a team goes up by 1 and it's the end of the game, and then they go for 3 to make it to have more than a field goal lead. And then on the extra point, it's a strip sack and the defense scores and they win and get the 3 points. That's what I can't wait for.
How many times this season do you think that the defense is going to, score?
I'm going to call it
very low.
It's going to be very rare. I'll probably bet 0, but the defense can score on these point after touchdowns, 1, 2, 3 points, and it is it's awesome. I'm so excited for it. Oliver Luck said that going into it with the research the league did, that fans seem most interested in this rule based on the feedback, but looking at the reaction on Twitter, at least today, and my own observations, I saw more people talking about the overtime rule that we're going to get into, but this one stands out a lot to me. I'm pumped for the 3-point play. Which coach, Vince, do you think goes for it the most, the 3-point play? June Jones?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Who goes for it the least?
I'd say Moss, the defensive guy, right?
No, I would say...
You know him personally.
I would say Stoops.
No,
but he has Mummy. He's got Mummy
he's
in his
so confident that he's going to be able to get it. That's not going to happen.
I just don't see it happening, honestly. If teams go for this more than once a game total, I would be...
No, they're not going to do that.
A 3-point play, not very often, but the 2-point play, I think, is going to be much more often than you think.
We'll have to see. The analytics, the data's going to have to be collected, and then we'll see what the right thing to do is probably after a few weeks. Maybe it might have to take the whole year to really have that trustworthy data. I can't wait to see what kind of concoctions June Jones, Hal Mummy, and the offenses in the XFL have regarding the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the XFL's double forward pass, which we've heard a lot about, and now seeing it visualized on the rules page with X's and O's seems super interesting and really baffling if you're a fantasy football player. This is the XFL double forward pass.
This is the XFL double forward pass. This is about offensive creativity. Typically in football, only one forward pass is allowed. So if you want to try one of those tricky double passes, that first pass has to be a lateral, and those are risky. Not in the XFL. In our game, 2 forward passes are allowed as long as the ball doesn't cross the line of scrimmage until that second pass. So the game speeds up and the playbook opens wide up, creating exciting and unique opportunities for dual threat players. This is for the love of football. This is the XFL.
I'm just going to call this the Keenan Reynolds rule.
Do you think it was built for him?
It is a rule made for players like that. Dual threats. Dean Blandino said it there, Brian.
Well, I mean, it's true. I think it's going to bring an aspect to the game that we've really never seen. When I was at the Wildcats minicamp in Vegas, I saw them practicing certain plays for this. And to not see the ball go backwards the first time and then go forward the second time was kind of interesting, very different to the eye. I will say this: I've spoken with some people, and a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage, if it's incomplete, it doesn't become a live ball. So that's kind of some clarity I wanted to put out there. That is a dead ball, incomplete pass.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense because you wouldn't even know if there was going to be a second pass after that.
Yeah, I just know that there was some speculation if all balls behind the line of scrimmage would be live. It's still the same rule in terms of if it's a backwards pass, it's considered a lateral, so that is a live ball. But all forward passes are incomplete if they're not caught.
Now, does anybody think this is going to be utilized a lot?
Ooh.
I mean, I think less. I'm going to say less than the 3-point play, I would say. I can't wait to see the first team to do it. I feel like week 1, some team's going to do it just because it's it's week 1, let's try it out. But it seems pretty risky, doesn't it, Jake? Like that, I don't know.
I think so. I don't think you're going to see this utilized a lot. Plus, you know, if you're throwing a forward pass between the line of scrimmage, I don't know. You know, it's like whenever somebody tries to pull a flea flicker. You know, you got to sell it. You got to get separation between the. I guess that would be the third man who's going to touch the ball, the second guy to catch the pass. So, you know, if you're throwing it behind the line of scrimmage, you still got traffic around you. I don't know if there's time to let that play develop and somebody to get open. So I don't think you're going to see it that often utilized.
But I think you're thinking of it as a big time play. Like this is going to be a wide receiver down the field. What if you can gain 5 yards on a double forward pass? Does that become an effective play that you can run more often than just it being a 40-yard vertical gain?
Could you like throw it out to the receiver and then he shovel passes it forward to somebody crossing? Would that
5-yard gain?
I guess.
You got to think about where you can use it. It's not just a vertical play to get 40 yards down the field. It's to just move the ball forward.
It just seems like there's a lot that has to go perfect there.
That's football.
You're making it sound like a real complicated and elaborate, risky way to gain 5 yards. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it opens up a lot more things. And I know Dean Blandino was on that video, and this was probably my favorite one in terms of the visuals. So I encourage everybody to go to xfl.com/rules and take a look at this one. But he states, yes, it is risky doing a lateral, behind the line of scrimmage and then throwing a deep pass. This seems just as risky to me, except, you could count on maybe an incomplete pass, I suppose, to help you out if that first person doesn't catch it. But I don't know. It doesn't. Maybe I'm being naive here, but I don't see this coming into play a ton, maybe once or twice a game, but certainly not very often.
Well, we'll see, because we're not offensive geniuses like Mummy or Mark Trestman. These guys are going to be able to come up with something and utilize this rule, I am sure. I don't know how much. Emphasize also that the second passer is the person that gets the stats on this play. So if you're playing XFL fantasy eventually, just know that the quarterback's just going to get treated like the lateral person on this. The second passer gets the stats, Bryant. You got to be aware of that. So when you're drafting it for your fantasy league, maybe pick a receiver who could throw or a running back.
You get those extra points, I guess, there. Fantasy-wise, I guess it opens up a lot of opportunities for some extra points there as well. I think I like the rule. I don't know, like kind of like the 3-point play. I don't know how much it's going to be used. I do think, though, that if Houston gets the ball week 1, Houston goes to DC. No, Houston and LA. If June Jones gets the ball week 1, his first play from scrimmage is going to be a double forward pass.
I hopefully with a tackle playing tight end throwing it too.
I think there's going to be a stat column for an assist now.
For the quarterback who laterals it? No, man, that'd be good fantasy. Oh, wow. That's why I said it's pretty interesting fantasy-wise. Also, only 2, it is a double, not a triple, a double forward pass. The third pass, if it happened, would be illegal. It would be an illegal forward pass. So that is the double forward pass rule, which like Vince said, it was just seeing the X's and O's, kind of made it a little bit more clear to me, but I still need to visualize this on a field to really grasp the double forward pass.
Yeah, I could see it. It just seems like something that's just not going to be executed all that.
Is it just more like unnecessary work, you think?
I'm not saying it's unnecessary work, but I just don't think it's different than other similar trick plays in other football leagues.
Well, I'm going to say week 1 we're going to get one. I don't know who, but we're going to get at least one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next rule here we're going to spotlight, and that is another kicking rule. The punt game in the XFL is also, just like the kickoff, very different, but I think opened up for a lot of exciting plays. This is the XFL Punt.
This is the XFL Punt. This is about coaches thinking twice about punting or going for it on fourth down. In the XFL, if a punt goes into the end zone, the receiving team gets the ball on their 35. And forget about coffin corner kicks. Punts that travel out of bounds are placed at the 35 too, or where the ball left the field, whichever is better for the receiving team. Plus, the punting team can't cross the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked. So the receiving team is less likely to call for a fair catch and more likely to return it. We're making the punt more about coaches going for it on fourth down.
Touchdown!
So get ready to get loud, because a crazy return or fourth down conversion could be coming up. This is for the love of football. This is the XFL.
So the CFL has 3 downs. The XFL looked at the CFL rulebook, as Oliver Luck said earlier today, and they said, yeah, how about we have 4 downs where teams really just want to go for it on fourth down too and not punt? Because that's basically what this rule is asking coaches to do. And like I said earlier, more bang for your buck, more football, more big plays.
Well, I mean, that's what the video is saying exactly. We want people to go for it on fourth down. Again, another case of more ball here.
Yes, this is a more ball rule. I hope the rule book when it comes out officially, Jake, it's categorized into less stall rules, more ball rules.
That's how I'm mentally doing it right now.
It helps. It helps.
Jake, are you still with all these kicking changes and all these, now with the punt specifically? Are you still, for paying the kickers less?
I don't think I've ever been for paying the kicker.
Oh my! Don't make me go back in the tapes.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Oh man,
Bryant's like an elephant, Jake. He's got a long memory. He'll remember everything you say. Vince, what do you think of this setup though? When actual punts do happen, it opens it up, I think, for some huge plays. This is going to be tough to defend.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know how you're going to defend this. I mean, essentially, there's no – I mean, you could set up such a good return because you have to wait until the ball was kicked before you can move down the field. If you're defenders, you could just run back right up. I suppose there could be a fake punt. So you would have to leave some guys down there. But I think this is going to help a lot. With as far as setting up a return, and even then, if you got to wait to pursue the ball carrier until the ball's kicked, he's going to be able to catch the ball and gain a few yards before you get down there. So it's certainly it's certainly going to set up some big returns. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, you can't get down there until he catches it. That's like a 30-yard window.
What's that? What is until the ball is
not
kicked.
It, I don't think.
If punting team cannot pass line of scrimmage till ball
kicked. Excuse me, you're right. Ooh, okay. Ooh. I
go back to the archives.
The kickoff. Remember that also. That'll help you. On the kickoff, it's when the ball's caught. On the punt, it's when the ball's kicked. But still, that's
how does that going to help me remember that? I don't.
Punt when it's kicked. Kickoff when it's caught. Kickoff when it's caught. Alliteration.
Is that what I will be saying in 5 weeks to my little one? Remember when kickoffs are received? And is that like a lullaby? I don't know what's going on there. I think it's going to encourage teams to go for it for sure. I think this one has the most impact in terms of regular. Like this, we'll see in effect more so with the intention that the XFL put in place, right? So the intention of the XFL on this play is to encourage teams to go for it on fourth down. And I think this rule, we're going to see more than the 3-point attempts, than the double forward passes. We're going to see coaches go for it more on fourth down because of this rule.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, but it's still going to be based on field position, I think. If you've got it on your own 30, you're still kicking this thing away.
And again, another play where I looked at it and I said, well, you would need different kind of players on this kind of punt than you need in the traditional punts. Your kicker, coffin corner, doesn't matter. You need a guy who I guess can kick it really high and straight, Vince. And you don't need him to be accurate to the corners. This touchback rule is pretty debilitating if you're going to give it up on the 35-yard line. Nobody wants to do that. Again, field position. Or do we see that maybe these punts are so explosive that teams say, screw it, I'm just going to give it to them on the 35?
That could be something that happens. I was thinking you might see some rugby-style kickers who, could, still keep it, in bounds, but, have it kind of roll on the ground a little bit and make it difficult for the guy to field because it's whenever the ball is kicked. So, if they could kick it, even if it doesn't have a ton of hang time and it's bouncing around, that gives your players maybe an extra second to get down the field.
So you're saying have the ball hit the ground before the punt returner can get to it in hopes that it bounces around. And
that's one strategy.
Well, hang time will be another one, right? If you can kick that ball high up into the air and give your coverage team some time to get down there and actually, create a circle around that guy, then hopefully that'll.
Well, that's true in all forms of football. You want to do that. It's just simple physics, though, that the higher you kick that ball, if you're projecting it with the same force, it's not going to land nearly as far because your feet angle is going to be much higher. So that I'm in that case, you'd be giving up a big return anyway. So I don't know exactly how this is going to. It's going to be very interesting to see. There's tons of different strategies. I might be with Alan here and just say, hey, I'm going to give him the ball on the 35-yard line.
Also,
a major touchback.
Yes, major touchback. Also on this punt rule, just know there's no 5-yard halo rule, and there are fair catches allowed. But why would you ever fair catch this punt? You should have a ton of room.
Unless you can kick it really, really high. You're probably not going to fair catch this thing.
And also normal down rules, the ball will be dead at the spot if the punting team touches it where it's laying. So, another tweak that I could picture being pretty explosive if coaches even dare to do it, because I don't know what's the threshold then. If you're on your own 35, I could see teams going for it maybe in this league. We'll discuss that in more detail. We'll discuss
on
that
your
in more
own
detail.
35.
Maybe depending on look at average field position in the XFL will be different.
Coaches need to be going for it more in all forms of football. And this is maybe going to bring that out of them. But there's some of these coaches in this league I know aren't afraid of it. So, and I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the going for it or not on this weekend show. That's definitely something that's going to be debated again. Like that, they went for 3. Can you believe how many times they went for it last weekend? I could definitely see that happening as well. Here we go to the last rule that we're going to dive into that was highlighted by Dean Blandino. It's the overtime rule, and it's a good old-fashioned shootout in the XFL if you go to OT. It is the XFL's overtime.
This is the XFL Overtime. This is about edge-of-your-seat, game-ending action. There's no coin toss, no one-possession wins, and no ties. Instead, XFL Overtime is a shootout. So the best players on both sides always determine who wins the game. Each offense gets up to 5 one-play possessions to score from the 5-yard line. Teams get 2 points for each successful conversion. Teams alternate plays until one team is mathematically eliminated.
Split. Tackle!
The defense can't score, but if they make a stop or create a turnover, the play is dead. The team with the most points after the 5-round shootout wins. If it's tied after 5 rounds, then things go to single rounds until one team scores and the other doesn't. Because this is winner-take-all kind of football. This is for the love of football. This is the XFL.
Bryant, who is going to be the XFL's TJ Oshie? In the shootout, who is going to be money in the 5 rounds of doom in XFL overtime?
Cardell Jones.
You might be right.
I like it. I like a player like that. I don't know. This is something that we learned about. I can't even remember how long ago. We've known about this concept for a while. I think Doug Whaley brought it up to us, right, Bryant, when we first interviewed him way back. And
April, I want to say.
I never thought of this ever in terms of football in my life. And he brought that to the show and blew my mind, and seeing it as the official overtime rule, I couldn't be happier, because I've wanted to see this in action since Doug Whaley brought it up, and hopefully we're going to get to see it. How many overtimes will there even be in the XFL this year? That's another question. Hopefully a lot. That's what I'm saying.
Well, with the awkward scoring that's going to happen with all the PATs, I assume that it's not going to be many. We only saw one in the original instance of the XFL in 2001, only one in the in the AAF this past year. So I don't see it happening too often. There was still some debate on whether or not they were going to have the two ends of the football field going at the same time, because you talk about the ball spotter having to run. I mean, come on. That's a pretty long ways for him to go spot a ball on the other side. But regardless, that's still up for debate. I like the rule. I think it gives some excitement to overtime. Overtime's exciting anyway, so I don't want to say that any overtime isn't exciting, but it does fix a few flaws in the sense that both teams get to decide it with their best players.
Oh, no. NFL overtime is not exciting. It's infuriating, because you're just sitting there the very first possession saying, oh, I hope this team doesn't score a touchdown unless it's yours, because then you don't even get to see the other team with the ball. This is going to be amazing, especially if they do the split on each end, which I really hope they do. 4 officials on each side, I think would be really cool. It would look great on TV, Jake, which you always bring up. And it won't take long either. You bang, bang, bang. You just run these plays real quick. Oliver Luck said, it should take about 7 to 10 minutes for an XFL overtime, and that'll be action-packed, big plays back and forth. And with a full regulation, they said simulated around, coming in average 2 hours and 45 minutes, you're still under the 3-hour mark. This overtime, if it happens at all this season, I think will be talked about endlessly. And on social media, it seems to be the most popular rule out there today.
Well, you've looked, it's been utilized in other sports for many years, and it's worked there. So why not try it in this discipline? You're right, the graphic didn't really specify if you're going to have both ends of the field out there. Again, if you're going for less stall, that's the way to do it, though. But who knows if we're ever going to, see this in a game this year.
Well, Vince, let me posit this to you, good sir. I think, actually, Jake just said we've seen other sports utilize this concept. It actually makes the most sense for football, more so than hockey or soccer, because you're still playing the game that you've played the entire length of regulation in this style of overtime. In football, it's still everybody lining up there and running a play. In hockey, it's a one-on-one that hasn't been happening all game. Same with soccer, it's a PK. That's way different from the actual regulation sport you were playing. This concept, I think, blends better into the regulation side and makes sense for football, and I'm so excited to see it happen, hopefully once a week.
No doubt about it, Alan. I'll tell you something right now. This is one of my favorites, even if we don't get to see it very much, even though if it doesn't really affect how the game's played. I think this is excellent. College overtime, very excited with both teams getting a shot and going back and forth. But too often that are not, that's, that could get drawn out or ended by, field goals or other kind of nonsense. Here, it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be, a potentially game winning or game losing 2-point conversion every single time. I just can't wait to see one of these. I mean, it is going to be, on the edge of your seat, the entire, possibly 10 attempts.
The bettors are going to have heart attacks during these overtimes, because imagine the spread is like 3.5, and you go up and you win the shootout 4-2, that's 4 points. I mean, 4 attempts to 2 attempts. That's 4 points that, all of a sudden you as a bettor, you were sitting pretty, and now you're not. There's a lot of aspects. I think this
Now,
is
is that how it's going to go down in the rule book, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 points.
2 points.
Okay.
Just
2
the
points per
same
attempt.
as regulation. 5-yard line is a 2-pointer in regulation. 5-yarder in overtime is a 2-pointer. And, oh, my God, Bryant, you just sparked something in my head. You talk about gambling aspects. I mean, imagine if we go to overtime, you could bet on, you could in baseball, you could bet per pitch. Betting per attempt in an XFL shootout overtime would be amazing. Every single attempt. And hopefully it goes more than 10, Vince, into the single rounds. After 5, it's still tied.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk with some bookmakers on how, how these scores are going to go down here, because like in hockey or soccer, I believe it's just 1 point awarded to the winning team for as far as the final score goes. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
on
so
that.
hockey, you would get 1 goal. So if it was 3-3, you would win 4-3. But in the XFL, you would get 2 points for every corrected for every attempt.
Yeah, it's very interesting there. You could push the total up on
That's the other thing. Over-unders.
Yeah, you could push the total up, possibly, 10 points or so. I mean, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, we don't know how exactly this is going to be handicapped or what aspects you're going to be able to gamble on all, across any casino or bookmaker. But with these rules, they open themselves up for a lot of fun, I think, in terms of gambling. And we'll see how it gets handicapped, Vince. But I mean, if everything in the XFL, just like the NFL, was bettable, this could be like the most fun type of game ever to bet on. There's so many different aspects of it that you could wager on that would be a lot of fun. This shootout, especially this overtime rule, and I'm really going to be an advocate for that split. I want to see everybody on the field at the end of the game. We'll go into that deeper this weekend, but I'm really hoping that's what they go with. Oliver Luck said that's going to be decided over the next couple of weeks before the season starts. And that does it for those main rules. You can check out all those videos that we played and reacted to on XFL. What is that? What's your homepage again, Vince?
XFL.com/rules.
Yes, go check that out. And also, Jake, I want to ask you real quick some other rules of note we're going to dive deeper into, of course, this weekend. But the PI you brought up last week on the show, it's going to be like the NFL spot foul, but it has to be egregious to be called. And if it's an egregious miss too, the replay official could overturn it, but it is not a reviewable play. What's your instant reaction to that?
Well, you're saying it's not reviewable, but if it's egregious, it can be reviewed. Is that correct?
Yes. So if it's a totally heinous miss, the replay fairy can say, hey, no, fix that.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I still wish it was just a flat yardage, though.
I was hoping for that too. Spot foul. Yeah, that's interesting. I want to know more about why. I don't really hear any. Did you hear anything today, Brian, about exactly the reasoning behind the PI?
So was that during the AMA? Because I didn't hear it during the conference call.
During the AMA, Dean Blandino said, quote, "Our pass interference rules are the same as the NFL. We don't want to be overly technical in pass interference or any of our rules, but it's important that we don't allow defenders to be overly aggressive and get away with holding and PI. That said, we won't allow receivers to push off," looking at you, Kyle Rudolph, "and block downfield either. Hand fighting will be legal." I think that's the best part about it. Vince, hand fighting in the XFL.
Zach Rudolph.
Yeah, I mean, there's hand fighting all the time in the NFL, and it's just very inconsistent.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett, right?
That was
only one of them was using a hand.
That was helmet to head fighting. Yeah. In that one. But Alan talked about it. That Kyle Rudolph play this past Sunday. I mean, looked like some pass interference to me. But
push.
Those are dealing with more complicated rules.
Push.
And I'm hoping these XFL rules here. They're going to allow this kind of stuff. It's got to be overly egregious. I'm very interested to see how it's called. That this one is definitely going to be under the microscope.
And speaking of complicated, Vince, you know what number's really complicated to me? 2. 2 is a complicated number. 1 is so much easier to understand. And thank goodness the XFL is going with 1 foot in bounds for a catch, college style. Control 1 foot or a body part in, and time to make a football move, and you're good to go. So much easier.
I saw Sam Schwartzstein tweet out that the other reason too for the 1 foot is it allows a football player to brace himself with his other leg rather than having to put 2 down and then fall to the ground, not being able to brace himself so much. So it's a safety issue as well. Alan, to allude to your question real quick from earlier as to why I think they continued with the spot foul, I think the XFL wants to look like the NFL in the sense the way certain things are handled, right? More people watch the NFL than college football, so make it look like the NFL in that sense. Don't make it a 15-yard penalty, make it a spot foul. It's what people are used to.
Yep, and it also keeps the offense flowing and keeps the defense in check, and which a lot of these rules do, and we're going to have to really monitor that throughout the season. How much of an advantage are these rules for the offense? They seem to be tilted in their favor, but I think as in any football league, I think by the end of the season, you're going to see these defenses look pretty darn good even with these rules. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. Jake, what do you think about the slant towards the offense?
Well, I think from what was released today and what was highlighted, it's a definite slant to the offense. I think the defense is going to have to, they're going to have to scheme and figure out ways to almost undercut it, kind of like what we were talking about with the punting. It might just be better to have them take it at the 35 if they're usually getting it at the 45 or 50. So that's just how all sport is right now. It's offensive because that's what gets the eyes on TV, and that's what gets the revenue bucks coming in. So of course that's what the XFL is going to go with. But yes, right now I think it's clearly slanted toward the offense.
It is a glorious day for the XFL. The rules are out, and now fans could just debate, discuss, react to all these rules. We didn't even get to all of them. The 25-second play clock is something we'll talk about a whole lot this weekend. But, I mean, this was, in terms of excitement and envisioning what's going to happen on February 8th, Brian, I haven't had a day where, I was like closing my eyes and really picturing XFL football being played more so than today. The draft was amazing, getting faces faces to the league, but today I could see the game being played in my head.
It's a place everyone wants to be in, right? We're getting closer and closer. We're 4.5 weeks till kickoff. Today football seemed real, even more so than yesterday. Jake, can you say it for me? Because if not, I'm going to say it and I'm going to beat you to it.
We are closer than ever
to kickoff in February. That's right. Just a month away. And we appreciate you. Hopefully you stayed up late tonight on Rules Day. And if not, check it out on the podcast feed. This show, this bonus episode, we called it a mini-sode earlier, Bryant, but this wasn't really mini. We had to get into these rules. We're going to have another full-length episode this weekend talking about these rules and other news. Landry Jones injury we'll dive into some more, and everything else going on in training camp. But what a day. And we are also an official XFL podcast, Vince. And you could find us everywhere. When people go to xfl.com/rules, they can also find this show right on xfl.com.
Yeah, how about that? Go to xfl.com, all your XFL news, notes, follow the league, and of course, listen to This Is the XFL Show.
We're right there. And of course, at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, XFL 2020 as well to follow the league. And we're super pumped to be officially a part of the XFL family and to keep giving you awesome podcasts each and every single week. And big shows like this on Monumental, days like this. Go read those rules, look them over, give us your reactions. We want to hear from you. Send us tweets, videos, call into the XFL fan line. We got that up and running still. 724-565-4XFL. Call in, leave a comment, get on the show, and let us know what you think of these rules. We're going to sink our teeth into them even deeper this weekend on episode 104. But, Bryant, I think that's all we got for this one.
Which is plenty. We talked about 5 rules and we went over our normal time. So we'll have plenty to talk about this weekend. So make sure you catch us. Also follow us on the socials at XFL Show.
Yep.
Well, see, Brian, we were thinking about going for 2, but then we decided we just might as well go for 3.
Yeah, and then who knows, this weekend we might go 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Jake, when that rule book comes out and you read the whole thing on a podcast, tea and honey, it's going to be a long night.
That sounds good.
All right, get your vocal cords ready, and we'll see you for episode 104 this weekend. Don't forget, leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you're listening to us there. That helps boost the visibility of the show, which gets more people interested and aware of the XFL, as we're just kicking off in 4.5 weeks until episode 104, though. For Vince, for Jake, for Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember,
they're still listening.